New Gundam Breaker is kind of a mess. Following Gundam Breaker 3 alone is a huge task, and in trying to upgrade the previous style of story with more branching options, moving it into a school setting and overhauling the entire combat system, Bandai bit off more than they could chew. The game runs very poorly, even on a PS4 Pro. Stuttering, freezing, lagging in menu selections and transitions. It even drops SPS in the final boss cutscene. By optimization standards alone, the game feels rushed. When your game freezes for 3 to 5 seconds at a time on a regular basis, I think it's safe to say it needed more time in the oven. But the performance isn't the only thing that needed more time. The mini-systems of the game are in constant battle with each other. New Gundam Breaker has a new parts acquisition system. Every mobile suit has an inner frame to support the parts they are fighting with, and when you attack an enemy, you have a chance to knock off one of their parts. This allows you to then pick up that part and store it in a 5-slot inventory. Anything stored in that inventory can then be either equipped, dropped, lost, or stored in your team case, which is located on the map, and moves after every use. Storing the part or having it in your inventory or equipped on you at the end of the match are the only ways to keep that part. If it is knocked out of your inventory or off of your frame, you either have to pick it back up or it is lost to you. This system raises the stakes in the match, but also leads to quite a bit of frustration when you find a part you really want, only to have enemies keep knocking it off of you, or attacking you while you try to store it, or even worse, enemy players picking it up themselves. This is all made even harder by the fact that as you can only hold 5 parts in your inventory at any given time, if the part you really want is knocked back onto the ground, you then have to get through the enemies who knocked it off of you in the first place, find it in the large selection of parts on the ground, drop things out of your inventory so that you have space to pick it up, and then pick it up. You also drop your entire inventory if you die, which will happen often since enemies can stunlock you into oblivion. You can try and boost away, but if the enemy has a ranged weapon, prepare to be juggled by Zaku bazookas and riddled with beam fire, as the AI rarely misses. I cannot count the number of times I died from a vast distance away because a mobile armor hit me with pinpoint accuracy. Redeploying after a death comes at the cost of any parts you had found and equipped over the course of the mission being back on the ground again. Using the awakening from the previous games now also causes you to drop all found and equipped parts, though your inventory items are safe from awakening. Storing even one part of a suit is enough to unlock the entire mobile suit in the store, where you can purchase any part you wish for the ridiculous amount of 100,000 GP. Each individual part costs the same, and you get a pittance of that for completing a mission. You can also sell any extra sets of parts you already own, allowing you to recoup some of the GP cost, but that requires you to be constantly collecting parts in 5-part increments, storing them in cases, picking up 5 more, and repeating the process. And while doing all of that, you still need to focus on completing the quests the game gives you during missions to earn stars, as the team with the most stars at the end of the timer wins. These quests could be to kill a specific type of mobile suit in a certain time frame, to destroy containers, to recover specific parts, or to kill a boss. Throughout the single player, I never once won a mission by star count, because every mission ends in a kill boss requirement. Online, however, the quests are paramount, despite your desire for parts, which everyone else is after as well. The parts that drop are not instanced, and so online, you, your teammates, and all 3 of your enemies are after the exact same part, all at once. You may find a pair of Shining Gundam arms, and you may want to keep them. So do all 3 of your enemies, who will stunlock you, take them from you when you die, and try to flee, only to have your teammate do the exact same thing to them. All of this is plagued by the game's terrible targeting system, which seems to prioritize whichever enemy it feels like and not the enemy right in front of you, regardless of distance, regardless of size, or regardless of mission priority. It is also seemingly completely random which part gets knocked off of your enemy when you attack them. Even which mobile suit will show up in the mission feels random. Each mission seems to have its own list of grunt suits, but also seems to have a table that it rolls on for reinforcement suits. 20 hours in, on a post-game mission, I finally saw a Crossbone X1. I have yet to see any Kshatriya or Burning Gundam parts, but I have sold more Rosen Zulu parts than I think have ever been printed. Creating your own Gundam is still fun, but the core of this system has also been gutted. No longer can you level up a part or merge parts together to make a part you want to use stronger. All parts have a set stat count, an EX action, which cannot be altered or changed in any way. EX actions have been kneecapped as well, due to the new EX leveling system. At the start of every mission, your EX gauge is set back to level 1, and to increase it, you need to break open containers and kill enemies who drop schematics that increase it by a tick. As your gauge increases, more of your EX actions unlock, in a random order every mission. I assume this was done to make every mission feel frantic and tense, but instead it causes every mission to start the exact same way. I find containers and break them to level up my gauge until I have most of my EX actions. And you really want those EX actions, because melee combos are gone, replaced with a rushdown and a basic string of light attacks for each weapon. You also cannot cancel out of a melee animation, which means once you hit square, you were stuck there for a moment, in a game full of AI that can stun lock you and don't miss often. This frustrating loop of find part, try to store part, get stun locked, die, lose part, happened so often that I finally focused on a Gundam that was all in on speed, just so I could avoid combat whenever possible, and blast my foes to dust from a distance. For the sake of this review, I did make a melee-focused Gundam, a balanced Gundam, and a Zeon-themed, purposefully non-optimized mobile suit, and beat a route with each of them, but it was far more frustrating than fun. This all culminates in the final boss, who is a 2-stage fight where your EX gauge is reset in between the two, but the boss's gauge is not, and who has a beam that will stun you and can hit across the map. Of course, to get all the endings, you have to fight the final boss 6 times. There are 4 cutscenes all tied to the final boss, and you see them all each time, despite only one of them being different per route. I've said route a few times. The single player of New Gundam Breaker branches out between 6 main routes by borrowing visual novel elements. Each route focuses on one of the 6 main girls in the game, and your time with them. You even get some art of the two of you together. However, all 6 routes follow the exact same story, with only slight differences, the most different of the 6 being Shion. You are not getting 6 different stories, you are getting one story with a different girl taking center stage. You unlock a few extra missions once you've completed all the routes, but even these simply cliffhang the story. Your character and the girl of your choice live happily ever after. One girl even tells you they have a surprise waiting for you in the hall, and then it just ends. There are some fun moments in the story, including the final boss saying a parody of my favorite line in all of fiction, "But for Bison it was Tuesday," and the entirety of Sieg Shion, but it all winds up feeling a bit lackluster. The idea of a school for gunplay is a well of fun, but is never utilized. There's even a cool mysterious power, the sense of expansion, and another character that may be a new type, but nothing comes of it. These characters are fairly interesting, and I wanted to spend more time with all of them, even if it meant I still had to play New Gundam Breaker. If you want to know what the characters were doing after the ending, better check the tips section, because it's not going to be in story mode for some reason. The weirdest thing of all to me is the music. You can choose to let the game choose music for you based on what series the enemy spawned from, or make a playlist. Some things override these, like going Trans Am or fighting a boss, but for the most part it plays your playlist. But not the entire song. It plays 40 to 70 seconds of a song, then just changes to the next one. For some songs, this means it misses the chorus of the song every single time it plays that song. Add to that the fact that the names of a good portion of the songs aren't even translated. It honestly feels like the music was an afterthought, which is a shame, since the game has a few good new tracks, but is missing so many tracks from across the Gundam series. They reference Beyond the Time at one point in the story, but Beyond the Time is not in the game at all. I cannot recommend New Gundam Breaker. There are some cool story beats, and the characters are solid. Nothing we haven't seen before, but enjoyable all the same. Despite the changes made to customization, it's still a blast to play around with. The gameplay itself, however, doesn't make you feel like that super cool Gundam you made. The effects are terrible, the stuttering constant, and the core gameplay loop is just plain frustrating. There is just not enough good in New Gundam Breaker, and the good that is there is offset by all the drawbacks. Even if the PC version or future updates could fix the stutter, the game still won't be fun to play, and the single player will still have told the same story 6 times. Gundam Breaker 3 is available on the exact same console, and is so much better than New Gundam Breaker. Oh, and Ryoko's best girl.